What up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another week of Topdecked, the Gwent talk show. My name is Jaggerous, and Swim has a little toilet roll.
Right. Sorry, it's an inside joke. Don't worry about it.
I've got
anyway,
a spare one if you need one. So.
No, I don't have one. I feel like I'm... Do most people have toilet? Actually, no, this is going to go somewhere weird. Let's not go down that route. So... today we are joined by Ammers and Apero from the Lodge of Sorceresses, which is a female-centric Gwent community. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Ammers, or Angie if you prefer. I founded the Lodge of Sorceresses, I guess you could say. I have a background in Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone. I graduated Ohio State with a degree in comparative cultural studies. I don't know what else. I like arts. I do arts.
What about you, Apero?
All right, my turn. Hi, everyone. My name is Apero. I'm a Gwent streamer. I'm originally from Australia, as you can probably tell from the accent. But I live in Germany, actually, and my profession is as an opera.
Your mic cut out.
She's gone.
Opera something.
She did say this happens sometimes, and we're supposed to wave our arms at her.
Yeah,
I hope that doesn't happen in any of the operas.
Oh, man, that would be so awkward. Oh, she's back.
Yeah, I'm back. It only happens on Skype. I don't know why. But I'm an opera singer by trade. And Gwent is really my first CCG. So I've been streaming since December. And yeah, I just love the game, but I know nothing about lore because I've just started Witcher 1. So I'm right at the beginning.
Witcher 1, that's brave. Most people recommend you start with Witcher 3 and then...
I'd say go in the opposite direction because playing 3 will spoil you for the earlier ones. You'll go back and you'll be like, what is this?
See, I've been playing Witcher 3, but I've been playing Witcher 3 for like a year because I decided to do it as a Let's Play and it just never ends. The game never ends. Anyhow. So... to start with,
I'm quite keen on discussing some of the most recent news. Just yesterday, I think it was, Berza dropped a ton of information on us for the AMA he did on the official CD Projekt Red forums, and there's actually quite a bit to discuss right there. For example, they noted down that one thing they were testing was a coin flip fix that involved initiative on leaders. Basically, the idea is each leader would have an initiative value, and basically when you got into a match, whichever leader had the most initiative would win the coin flip for that match. And it's something that's been talked about quite a bit. There's a good amount of people that are very much like skeptical of the solution, and I'm curious how we all feel about it as an idea.
I would put myself in the skeptical category. Oh, by the way, hi Swim, it's nice to see you again.
Oh, hello, yes.
We last saw each other.
We met at the Wild Fun event, and I'm still reeling from that experience. The event, not meeting you.
Oh, I have that effect on people, so I wouldn't have been surprised. Just kidding. So I'm kind of skeptical just because it doesn't seem to actually solve the problem, which is that going second is better than going first. It's just kind of assigning it to particular factions, and you can't always tell what archetype that faction is going to be playing. So I don't think that's going to work out very well, and you're going to have to balance them all separately. It just seems overly complicated.
Yeah, that's kind of the boat I'm in. I love the idea of something that adds a layer of depth, especially in deck building as a process, because I love additional layers of depth in deck building, but I am almost certain that the idea is impossible to balance and will be very abusable, while kind of at the same time not fixing the coin flip problem. But if I'm wrong, and if it is balanceable, I kind of love the idea of something that adds an extra layer of depth like that.
I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how deck building changes based on it. I think, for example, I would assume that Arrakis Queen would have a higher rating than, for example, Eridan. Does this mean we're going to start seeing Eridan consume decks? I think a lot of the balance has to do with the deck itself more than necessarily the leader per se. So,
I agree.
Unless it's Henselt.
Yeah, of course.
See, I guess it depends on how they assign the priorities. Is Henselt going to be high priority? Is it going to be low priority? Is something like Dagon, which is reactive, as a leader itself, high priority or low priority? It kind of depends on how they number them. And I get that you're saying it's going to be abusable, but I feel like any sort of solution, like it's going to be very hard to come up with one that isn't abusable. I mean, maybe you could have something where your leader's power is dependent on the outcome of the flip, such that your leader becomes more powerful in terms of just raw points.
That's something they did test out internally.
If you lose, but if they tested it internally and it didn't work, then probably just doesn't work.
I thought that somewhere in the comments, I can't remember where exactly. I thought they mentioned that there might actually also be a points bonus attributed to leaders as well as an initiative value, but I'm not sure if I might have just.
Well, it's definitely a possibility. And just given that it's an idea that they were kind of throwing around and testing internally, it's very possible we might not see anything even close to it being implemented in the game, but it's just fun to discuss something that they were obviously testing thoroughly enough to be able to feel comfortable mentioning it in that way.
And I am glad that we're being heard and that we're seeing some experiments. That's very
absolutely
important.
Yeah, it's something I think that they'll PTR. I think CDPR are definitely learning with their PTRs, and I think this is the kind of thing that is really important to PTR because it's going to be hugely impactful on the game. But it's ultimately good. Like, we'd rather have some sort of solution, even if it does have layers of abuse, than no solution, I would have thought.
Yeah, I definitely am glad that they're at least acknowledging there's a problem and that maybe something should be done about that problem. Whether it works, I guess we just have to wait and see. I hope so. I hope it's better than I imagine it.
Who knows if we actually get it on the PTR or not, because the last time we thought we were going to get something on the PTR, we didn't, and same with the time before that.
Yeah. Another thing, probably the second biggest thing that was mentioned on Burza's AMA is that his favorite color is yellow. What do you guys think about that? Do we think that we can put our faith as the Gwent community leader and someone who chose yellow as a favorite color? And beyond that, I mean, what do we think that kind of represents about him as a person?
What's wrong with yellow?
It's such a... Who says yellow is their favorite color? Nobody ever says that.
That's a good point, Swim, because think about it. If it's green, you're like, oh yeah, it's the color of grass, or it's blue, it's the color of the sky, but what's yellow the color of?
The sun. I mean, yellow's not my favorite color, but I don't have an issue.
Don't eat the yellow snow.
Oh.
I saw some yellow snow today. I live in Norway, so we see a lot of snow in general. It's not just how I was out of my way, I think ultimately the kind of question, the AMA was really good. I think Burza did his best. A lot of it was soon TM, and I can't talk about that yet. But he did mention that they're working on an expansion, which is exciting because that'll be a lot of content. Thronebreaker's becoming, I guess, bigger and thus is slower. I mean, what else did we find out? That Toussaint is not...
Okay, the actual unironic second biggest thing we found out was that they are going to be adjusting create cards. Depending on the create card in question, they're going to be applying one of three solutions. They're going to be tweaking it. They're going to be either removing it from constructed or kind of leaving it the same, right? So this is something that a lot of people in the community have been asking for, the removal of some create cards from constructed and just maintaining them as arena cards. And I'm interested to hear exactly which cards they're deciding this treatment on. It's a little bit tricky to actually give feedback on the idea based on not knowing which ones that they're actually applying this to. But I like the sound of it. It's something that could make a decent amount of sense with Gwent's format. I mean, Hearthstone recently, I think, is adding cards that are only in arena, and in Gwent, if anything, that concept does fit the style of Gwent a bit more than Hearthstone even.
Was there a question in there?
What do we think about?
Sorry. What do we think about it?
I hope that they move runestones, in particular, over to arena only.
Yeah, I think runestones. I would have to imagine that runestones would be one of the priorities for that.
I was wondering, what do we think about the idea of Winch going to arena only?
I don't mind Winch as existing. I get people are like, oh, but then you high roll and you get your Hensel thing. But it's I feel like Hensel, it's kind of fine. Hensel does well on red coin. If he gets Winch and he gets what he needs, that's good. But you can shut it down. You have options to remove anyway. It's only one extra card on the tempo play that's a tempo play anyway. I've never been like, oh man, his winch. Like, he won the game because he had an extra battering ram. Like, he would have won the game regardless of whether he had 3 battering rams or 4 battering rams. Like, at that point, it's neither here nor there. Like, I've never felt like winch has cost me a game.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think as well. Sorry.
Oh, no, please continue.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Uh-oh.
It's because Swim interrupted her, and now she can't talk.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, I was just going to say, I think if we weren't going to see this initiative idea on leaders, then moving Winch over to something like Arena only, like, you could argue for it, maybe, if you think Henselt is too strong. But I think if we're going to see both an initiative change that means that Henselt is basically always blue coin, then basically getting rid of Winch at the same time would, I think, be pretty catastrophic.
I think it's an interesting one. It really is. I could see arguments both ways. I think in the grand scheme of create effects in general, Winch is one of the lower RNG ones. There are very rare situations where, you need to winch into the right thing to get your Henselt off. That doesn't happen super often. The only concern I have is that the kind of effect of Henselt in the first place is almost a bit problematic, especially with both Henselt and Winch. Machines almost need to be balanced at a lower power level compared to other bronzes. I mean, you see the best machine in terms of its general value, obviously. Ballista has a lot of synergies, but in terms of its general value, the best machine is Battering Ram, which is a conditional 12. It's a complicated issue. Winch, I think, is the one out of all of them that there's really arguments both ways on.
Yeah, I agree.
I think all the bronze creates are fine, especially the Squirtle one because it presents really interesting deck building options.
You think Elven Scout is fine? I think Elven Scout is terrible. Like,
I think it's fine.
The problem is that Squirtle
I have
cards
never
in
had an
general
issue with it.
are super strong, and you just play Elven Scout and you're like, I need an elf. I will find an elf. Oh, look, here's Aelin.
Yeah, but you can't guarantee it's a good or synergistic elf unless you build your deck around
how many of the elves, like, how many of the cards you can draw from that are actually bad? Like, it doesn't need to be synergistic because Squirtle cards in general are great. Like, so I'm going to compare this to Monsters Runestone. Now, you don't run Monsters Runestone because the silvers are bad and you're going to get crumbs. And that's why Monsters Runestone is basically never sees play. Whereas Elven Scout is, like, I don't think I've seen a Squirtle deck recently that doesn't run it because it's just easy points. It's, safe value. That value is spread out, so you're not playing, tall and you're not playing wide. And if you need an elf, you'll get an elf. And if you don't get an elf, you'll get a dwarf that's, worth, like, 12 points, so it's fine. Like, there's kind of very, very few situations where Elven Scout doesn't work out as a 12, 13 point play.
I think so in terms of effectively continuing this discussion, I actually think that Ammers has a really good point. I would mostly say somewhere in between. Elven Scout is a great concept, right? It and Triss Telekinesis are, based on their design and what they were intended to be, probably the two best designed create cards because they both require you to build your deck in a specific way. However, the main problem with Elven Scout is because of how Squirtle bronzes actually are in reality, it's too efficient, right? If it was like a Skellige card, I don't think would, well, of course it would be an issue with Veteran. I like the design concept of the card, but it's probably too strong at like what it is. It's too efficient at what it does.
Like if it was a monsters card, it would probably not be great, right?
Well,
because you'd get like Siren and
Emmers, would you like to talk?
Maybe. I think what if they took the create options and limited them to 2 instead of 3 for cards like that? Is that maybe one of the balance options they're considering, perhaps?
It's interesting. It will kind of balance them in a way, but it also makes them a bit more RNG, right? Because you have less agency over what you actually choose.
Mm-hmm.
And balancing them by making them more RNG is maybe not necessarily the best solution. It does work in a way. It's a little bit risky because then any of them that actually remain competitive stay that way, but at an even higher RNG level.
I think it's really interesting that a lot of the create cards that people have problems with are the ones that require no adjustment to your deck at all. If you have a create card that has some sort of cost, like say it takes up a gold slot, then we're a little more kind of willing to bend on that because the cost of running the create is higher. So I think for me personally, I feel like the cards where there's no cost to your deck building at all, like for example Slave Driver, are ones where I feel like they could just go to Arena and we could just let them go.
Agree.
But then of course what is the other card that then gets shuffled into an alchemy deck. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think Elven Scout is really on the level of Slave Driver. I like what Elven Scout was trying to be. I do like the concept of the card because you have to deck build in a certain way, and it is a different card in different decks. It's a lot cooler than something like Slave Driver in concept, but in reality, it's pretty much just as problematic, I would say.
Are there any other cards you guys expect to get moved to Arena only?
That's a great question. I think that depending on... I don't expect any right away, personally, but I think that if this kind of experiment goes well for them, they will, interestingly enough, be looking for more cards to move to Arena only. Maybe some kind of more competitive RNG cards. I haven't thought about that.
See, I don't really like the idea of having separate arena cards, especially not at this stage in the game. We only have like 300
it's
cards
very
anyway.
early.
And then they're like, oh, here's the basic card pool. Now these cards are only available in Arena.
Yeah.
So I guess we get refunded them if they're in our collection.
Maybe
no
that means we'll see both that change as well as the the first expansion drop at the same time.
Oh, I don't think the expansion's coming for a little while. Like,
what about the create leaders?
That's a good question.
So what? East, Philavandrel,
Iced,
Hillock,
Serpa.
It's very interesting because what those create leaders aren't actually competitive in their current forms. Now they might be interested. What they could do is they could actually buff them up a tiny bit and move them to Arena. I don't know if they'd be interested in doing that, but with the create leaders, CDPR has a bit of a difficult problem because they're either going to be kind of too weak to see play and constructed, or they're going to be too strong that they don't want them to see play and constructed, and they want to move them to Arena.
I think it's going to depend on what cards come out that adjust how strong those card levels are.
Yes.
Those leaders, especially like Hillock right now, is considered not super strong, kind of niche, used in a few decks, specifically, I believe that Imlerith deck that was around for a while. So, like, let's say we see a couple organic cards that are really strong, and then suddenly everyone's like, "Woo, Hillock's awesome."
Yeah, and Ada out of those is the one that is the closest, I think, by leaps and bounds to being competitive, because all it takes is a couple of additions to the cursed archetype that incentivizes you to play a lot of cards with a cursed tag.
Cursed.
Yeah.
Cursed is so fun.
And this kind of leads into the next point, actually. We'll touch on that in just a second. But I think if they're looking at one of those, it's Ada. But so the next point is that one of the other things they announced is that they would be undergoing a new project that they were calling, like, trying to improve faction identity. They were selecting specifically 3 broadly distinct archetypes from each faction to try to maintain a certain level of playability, reworking cards that didn't really have a place to fit those faction archetypes. And I really hope one of those for Northern Realms is Cursed, and I think it will be. They're going to basically try to create as much divergent playstyle as possible. Cursed is the most unique way to play NR, and you can actually speculate based on that. It's almost certain that decks like Cursed and Discard Skellige will be archetypes that will be balanced because they play so uniquely.
Especially since Skellige already has so many discard mechanic cards that aren't being used and used to be. And they would love to see play again, I'm sure. What
are other archetypes that play so distinctly that it's almost certain that they will want to do this?
Well, we have to say Reveal, right? Like Reveal is like it's kind of very distinct. It really can't be used in most other archetypes in Nilfgaard. You'd assume they have to do something there, or I'm not sure, because right now Reveal is, I guess, what, tier 2, tier 1, and tier 2, and kind of like. It kind of could do with a little bit of a boost, but we'll see.
I would hope that they would maybe rework some of the create leaders in conjunction with this, fleshing out the archetypes, because I feel like the create leaders, they're just, even if they're in Arena, you're not generally picking them over leaders where you know what they do. And, people want more distinct archetypes, and they said that's what they're bringing. So, for example, with monsters, maybe if they were going to do a Deathwish archetype, they could tie in a Deathwish leader, because that's kind of one of the things that it's missing. And I think you could easily make Hillock into some sort of synergistic Deathwish thing. And then you've got Deathwish, you've got Consume, and you've got Hazards. I guess I would call the 3 sort of monsters archetypes. Then if you look at say Nilfgaard, you've got like maybe Alchemy Spies and reveal, and then maybe you could find a more kind of alchemy leader that ties in with that. There's definitely kind of changes they could make
Do
to
something to
these new leaders.
Or
Yeah.
maybe give enforcers some sort of
She's gone again.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
R.I.P. in pieces.
That's sad. That's sad. But I think I would like to see the create leaders changed. I think they're talking about faction identity, and create leaders have no faction identity.
Yeah,
So-
But they're
I
meant to be
completely
ones
agree.
that are usable no matter what you draft in Arena. That was the point of them, and I think
But-
they do that well. That they're usable no matter what synergies you manage to find in Arena.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, they should make them appear at a higher percentage rate. in
But I
Arena.
would say that, like, so is Amir, so is Jan, so is Francesca, so is Ethne, so is Bruver. Like, there's plenty of non-create leaders that work absolutely fine in Arena.
But you're not. That's you may not find those, and
Yeah,
having all the create leaders in
exactly.
gives you a higher chance of finding something
Yeah.
that works no matter what you ended up drafting.
the reason they were pushing the create leaders is because when they were internally playtesting their like draft mode, it was kind of too common of a scenario where you would find something like Hansalt Bran and Arrakis Queen, right? Or as it was at the time, that was unseen all the way back then. And that's just a really bad feeling. However, since then they've gone to 4 cards instead of 3. It's an interesting topic because on one hand it feels so weird that leaders feel like they should support archetypes. It feels so weird having just like a generic create leader, but at the same time you don't, if you dedicate too many leaders to that, then you have a bad arena problem. I think that some kind of middle ground, potentially allowing you to see maybe like 5 or 6 leaders instead of 4, I don't know, so some kind of middle ground.
I'd like to just see them show us our leader choices before the draft, and then let us choose at the end.
That could work
that's
too.
Such an easy solution to it. So you're like, okay,
Yep.
one of my choices is possibly, reveal. Okay, well, I know that I'm allowed to pick reveal cards now.
I think they were trying to avoid people kind of net decking in that sort of scenario, whereas if you put it last, you can't.
arena net decking.
But net decking kind of makes it interesting because it's still pretty rare that it would happen, but you get the opportunity for some crazy Hensel shenanigans.
You just gotta believe in the heart of the cards and draft all your machine swim. Like,
Yeah.
What if you could draft Necker Warriors with machines and Henselt?
Yep. Yeah,
That would
I
be
think
so
I
fun.
saw Ash Lizzle had a clip where she did that. It was pretty crazy.
that's
What
why
if-
you don't
what about
have your
drafting
leader
leaders?
first.
What about drafting leaders halfway through? Instead
That's a consideration as well. Some people have tossed that idea around. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think halfway would be okay because then you've kind of got some of your cards, and then you can start looking for synergies, and that seems like I feel like having a leader first, it's going to make people play much more kind of rigid in Arena, whereas at the moment, because it's so broad and you don't know who you're going to get, you maybe don't have that rigidity. And if you're going to try and take those risks, you see a Foglet and then hope for Dagon, for example, then you're taking a risk there, and that I guess makes strategy a bit more important, I would say.
Yeah. But anyway, I am super excited that they are kind of going through factions in this way. It feels like archetypes in Gwent have been kind of one of the biggest issues throughout Gwent's history. It feels like some archetypes just get a ton more love than others, and it's great that they're kind of really... I think this is a step towards promoting different strategies in Gwent, because one of the complaints since the Midwinter update has been a lot of strategies, even across different archetypes, have felt kind of samey. So I think this is a great initiative.
I agree.
What do we think would be the archetypes for Scoia'tael? Because there's so many different directions I feel like they could take with that.
That's
like, what do we think?
Well, one of them
Spells.
is probably dwarfs, but dwarfs don't really have too much of an identity right now. I kind of hope, and this is just kind of a minor hope, but I hope that when they're kind of revisiting this, I do expect one of them to be dwarfs, and they did say that they were going to kind of retweak and kind of redefine some of the identities. I hope they go back to dwarfs and kind of make it more than just kind of point spam, which it is right now. Hopefully they rework cards like Xavier, Moran, and Agitator.
Bring back old resilience
Yeah.
dwarves.
Wow. Okay, so I
think I threw up a little bit in my mouth right
you
when you said
okay?
that. I'm good.
yes, they should bring back old resilience dwarves.
Jaggerous, do you need some of this?
I think I might, I got a little bit excited there. What about hand-buff / mulligan? Is that do they go together? Are they different? Are they the same? How does that work?
Hand buff or movement or
I
Spellitel
love
or
movement.
ambush or
I think it's important to note that they said 3 usable archetypes,
Yes.
not only 3. So
Mm.
maybe they only focus on 3 that are unused right now and leave the others there, and so it ends up just being a faction that has a lot of extra stuff. And I think that might be fine for Squirtle just because it has so many kind of sub races in it as like
and
a
we know
nation.
dryads are coming, so
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
true as well. I gotta say, I'm very interested in the prospect of movement. If we're looking at this purely from a perspective of archetypes that play for a completely different style, movement out of all of Squirtle's should play most for that style. Now, if we're talking like old movement that we know and love, it kind of movement has always been an archetype that has kind of only ever really existed on the back of Gold Weather, right? It's always been just like a Gold Weather archetype. But if they go through, flesh it out, add like a good handful of cards that support it and strategies that can play for a short round, we could see like a real full-on movement deck instead of just a movement hybrid weather. And I'm very interested to find out what that might look like.
I just
I
thought of
don't know.
something interesting for ambush and movement. What if they made like an ambush card that you could put on the opponent's side of the board that was some sort of trap that would reveal when you moved something onto that row?
Yeah, no, I mean something
know.
like no, absolutely.
It just popped into my head.
We've seen a couple things kind of like that earlier in the game. I mean, you used to have ambushes that played on the opponent's side of the row.
Really?
But,
That must have been really early in closed beta.
yes.
Yeah, was it like
yes,
a trap or
was.
something?
Yeah, well, you
I
could
don't
play
remember that at
Kiaran
all.
on the opponent's side of the board. There was old Dolblathana Trapper used to be something you played on the opponent's side.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
and every ambush used to be able to be played on the opponent's side if you wanted to bluff that you were playing a trapper or something like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, surprise! I gave you
I
points.
must have joined after that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's all blurred into one. I was like traps. They used to be on the other side, but it's been like a year of Gwent, so I can't remember like what meta we're even playing now at this point. But let's move away from the Burza AMA and we can talk a little bit about the Lodge of Sorceresses.
Wait. You don't want to visit the faction? What the new faction might be?
oh,
the new faction.
What about that?
He gave us a hint. He said it was cool and it had a ruthless leader. Now
and it's probably orange.
Orange, yep.
Oh.
Because someone said, what's the color? Is it yellow? And he said, probably more towards red. So we're probably, I don't think they're going to release another shade of red when we already have monsters. So it'll probably be orange.
So it's not Tucson because that's part of Nilfgaard, and they kept saying that.
I'm expecting Southern Kingdoms.
I don't know
Like-
enough about Gwent, like Witcher lore to guess. And Swim clearly knows what it is because he's pulling a really weird face. He's just like,
Huh? No. I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Well, I think the most likely one is going to be like Zerrikania and Ophir. And then whatever miscellaneous other southern countries are. And I think it'll give them a lot of creative space to work with.
What is that face, Swim?
What?
You're a terrible poker player. Oh, I have no idea.
Because the cool, ruthless leader could be like a dragon of some type, because they worship dragons. And they're also renowned for their archery and alchemy into their bomb making. So you could see a lot of really interesting units based on those things.
I think that would be cool. I've always wanted peasants, but we have peasant militia, so it's not going to happen. But I could just imagine all the NPCs that you see wandering around in Witcher 3, and then they can all be a faction, and it'll be great. Swim, what do you think?
Yeah, Swim, what do you think?
No comment.
Okay,
Typical Swim.
So let's talk about the Lodge of Sorceresses. Explain for the viewers what it is, where the idea came from, and then we'll go from there.
All right, so the Lodge of Sorceresses is first and foremost a Gwent Discord community. It's women-centric or women-focused. It's LGBTQ friendly. These things don't matter as much in the game as they do in a social community. And that's one of the questions we've had in the past is why does it matter? It matters because when you're a girl and you come in and you see a bunch of girls on the sidebar who are online, you're like, yes, I'm not alone. And it feels good. We have a very active voice chat culture on our server. Anyone can join. You don't have to be a girl to join. We also have a community-run tutoring program. We have very highly ranked mentors. Some of them are like top 50 in the pro ladder. they'll work with players one-on-one to help you get better at the game. If you want to, like, say you're rank 10 and your goal is rank 15, we can help you get there. Say your goal is rank 20 and you're usually around 18, we can help you get there too. We have channels for everything, obviously, because that's just Gwent. We have like lore, we have all faction channels for everything. They're all lore based too, so like all of our faction channels are named after female related areas in those factions. So like Crookback Bog for monsters and Aretuza Academy for Northern Realms. See what I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, we have weekend events as well. We have voice chat socials. I'm probably forgetting something. Someone remind me.
Well,
Anyway.
it's actually a super like active and managed Discord. I've popped in.
It
a
grew
couple
very
times.
quickly, very very quickly.
Yeah, and there's like events for NA and for EU, and just like to clarify, this isn't like a no men allowed thing.
I did say anyone's welcome.
Like, and anyone is welcome. I feel like people get so offended when you say, "Oh, this is a space that is LGBT friendly" or what have you, and they're like, "Oh, what, are you suggesting that all other people aren't like spaces aren't?" And that's not what you're suggesting at all. Like, you're not saying that everyone else in Gwent is a homophobe. You're saying if you identify as this and you like how like it's not nice for someone to say, "Hey, you are welcome," specifically. That's all it is. It's saying, "Hey, if you feel maybe nervous about interacting with communities," because some women do. Like, a lot of women have gender neutral handles.
There's other categories under that as well. For instance, trans, anyone who's trans. I got a couple of messages when I was first setting it up that were like, "I'm a trans woman, but I'm mid-trans and my voice sounds kind of weird and I'm really self-conscious about that. Is this a place for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally. No one will say anything about that on our voice chat, and if they do, they out, because that doesn't fly."
I think also the thing is, like, generally, and I hope I can say this, but generally speaking, as nerds and geeks, like, most of us know the feeling of, maybe it's not that people are purposely trying to exclude you, but maybe you just feel like you're a little bit alien from the rest of the group sometimes. And I think as a woman, it can feel that way sometimes. It's not that the men are doing anything in particular to alienate you. It's just by nature of being. Fest. Yeah, it's a sausage fest. It's a dong fest. And we're all just like sitting around and you're looking at all these dongs everywhere and you're just thinking like,
well, I don't know about
one
that.
of these. No, but you know what I mean? So like sometimes it's just, you're just like, oh, I'm kind of like the odd one out. And
I kind of seem to be the odd one out right now.
Well, there you go.
So our next member milestone is 400, and we've been open for about a month and we're approaching 400 members, just doing private invites. And we have about 1/3 women on the server, compared to about 3% in the general Gwent demographics, 3% female from what I've seen on Reddit statistics, as well as Jaggerous. I know you mentioned that YouTube statistics tend to be about 3 to 5% female as well.
Demographic is like 3 to 5% female.
We're better by about tenfold.
But if you go for over 60-year-olds, I have like 10% women. But there's not very many over 60-year-olds watching my Gwent videos. But within that like small amount of people, lots of old ladies, which I'm great. I'm great. You can just call me Grand Jessica.
I have to say, I recently started my YouTube channel, for the first time. It's only got like 2 videos on it, but I found that the moment I created my YouTube account, suddenly I was getting all these ads for why girls secretly love nerds and like all kind of stuff like about like women and sexuality, and I'm like, oh, I know what demographic it thinks I'm part of now. So it is like definitely a thing, I think, on YouTube and the wider community that women might not necessarily be as active, even if they're playing the game.
What are your thoughts on the group? Because I know everyone here is in the Discord, and so you've seen it and you've participated some. What are your impressions?
Me or Swim?
Either.
I think it's a great group. Like I said, I was actually very surprised how active and kind of spurred on the Discord is. It's like really snowballed into a really active community. There's people in voice every single day.
There's people in voice right now. I'm just like looking. There's like a whole party going on.
They're probably
hello.
Yeah, if you're someone who likes to hang out in voice, that is a really good Discord for that, because I know a lot of other Discords really don't have that. Like, you don't see people regularly just hanging out in voice.
Yeah,
and
that's one of the things I wanted to go for specifically.
It can be scary at first when you see a lot of people in voice and you're like, oh no, what if they don't like me? But the whole point of this Discord is that it's catered as welcoming, So then I feel like you shouldn't be kind of scared of that. And also there's loads of events happening. they have like an announcement channel, and I'm constantly like, oh, there's another event happening. Like there's lots kind of going on. There's like competitive discussion, there's Gwent discussion. It's generally a great Gwent Discord.
Thank you.
I really like it.
It is a group effort, by far. Yeah, my mod team is really great, and so are the mentors, and so is everyone who's involved. Really, it's just a really friendly, positive server.
But I don't get why it's so controversial. I guess it's controversial because you said specified welcoming to women and welcoming to LGBT, and because you said that, it's somehow become a controversy, which I don't understand at all.
I know where it came from, and it was from the language that I used in the original announcement post for it. I specifically was like, anyone's welcomed, and that includes XYZ groups of people, and one of the groups I mentioned was supportive men specifically. Because the original post I made to see if there was interest was full of dudes who were like, don't do this, that's a terrible idea. Why would you segregate the community who are non-supportive? So I specified supportive men because I don't really want non-supportive trolls coming into the chat and being like, let's see how much we can trigger these SJW Tumblr radicals, which is not what we are at all.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think if people associate women-only groups with somehow being, or like women-focused.
We're not women only.
Yeah.
She's gone again.
Just not. Oh, there she goes.
Poor Apero. Like, just like, is it a movie? A book?
Shucks. Okay, I think I'm
there
back.
she is.
I was just going to say, I don't think anyone likes the feeling that they're excluded or that they're somehow being implicated in something that they don't feel like they're part of. But I think really, from my perspective, anything that grows the community or encourages people to be more active in the community, in whatever form that takes, I'm like, why not? Like,
yeah, no, I completely agree.
And I did adjust the language that I used when I updated the server with it. I changed some of the wording around, and I did take some of that feedback. Some of it I think was really digging too deep. Like there was this one comment that compared the group to the KKK because, totally, yeah, that makes sense. So some people went really overboard with it and just looked way too deep into the issue. And really, it's just meant to be a place where women and minorities can meet each other, but also just be a nice, cohesive, inclusive, positive environment, and a time when Gwent is a little bit more negative than it has been in the past.
That's true.
Also, we've seen a lot of success with the mentoring as well. Quite a lot. We're starting to do, so we have an event every Saturday at 2 p.m. EST, and it alternates Saturdays. The first and third Saturday of the month are going to be our server socials, and we had like 30 people come out for the first one, which at the time was 10% of the server. It took like an hour and a half to get through introductions. It was nuts. And then on the other Saturdays, the second and fourth Saturday of the month, we're doing competitive workshops with high-level players. So the next one is Monsters, and Kara, who's a top 20 pro ladder player, is going to do a Q&A and talk some people through some Monsters decks and stuff and talk about matchups and things. And then every Sunday, we have a ladies-only voice chat. It's a good time. We have a lot of stuff going on. We have a member right now who's organizing on his own a arena night. I think it's going to be a group arena draft, probably on stream, that he's going to run, and I'll do announcements for. We also have another thing on the back burner with some members who are wanting to do voice-acted readings of cool parts from the books. So we have a lot of interesting things happening.
Really cool.
Sounds good. And so if people want to get involved with the Discord, what's the best way for them to do it?
So I don't tend to leave open invite spaces just because of the troll issue that I was concerned about because of that initial backlash. You can reach out to me on Reddit. My name is Ammers. You can see the spelling on the screen with a 10 on the end, Ammers10, or on Discord, it's Ammers, and then the number is 4431. You can add me, and then I can get you an invite.
Sounds good.
Also,
so
if you have anyone who's already in, they're allowed to send invites as well.
Oh, you got to know someone on the inside.
So, or like I also stream. So if you come by my stream sometime and you want an invite, I'll pop one out to you.
Yeah, pretty much all of the major female Gwent streamers that I could find are part of the group. So if you watch any of them, you'd like an invite, hit one of them up. They all are pretty much in. So. Oh yeah, and if you'd like to start a stream and get some traction on that, we also have a streaming notifications channel. So whenever you go live, anyone who's online will see, and they can pop that and show support. That's helpful to you, I know.
Sounds good. So I guess we can move from women in Gwent to esports. I guess we could talk about women in Gwent esports if that's something you guys want to talk about. But also we have the Gwent Open coming up. So that's pretty exciting. That's this weekend. It starts at 4 p.m. CET. Bear in mind, US times have changed. So if you live in America, like just keep that in your noggin. And so 8 players are duking it out. Tailbot Colamon, who's part of Team Topdeck. I can't remember words today.
Topdeck.
Topdeck.
Yeah, Hannah-chan, Adzakov, Proneo, Schmel. I love saying Schmel.
Mago.
Dutch boy. No, Mago's not in.
Mago qualified. He's number 5 right now, but unfortunately, he is not able to actually attend any live events.
It's a shame. And then Dutch boy and Demorkiz. I'm hopefully
yes,
Demorkiz. Demorkiz. I'm going to go with. But that's the 8 players. Does anyone have any favorites? Any items of unfavorites?
Well, as always, I'm going to be rooting for my man Cole Lemoen. A bit of an unknown, but came on really strong for the Gwent Challenger 2 at the castle. I was there, live for the event, and he really blew me away with some of his plays. I think he is one of the top 2 or 3 best players in the entire game, and I'm very, very, very much looking forward to seeing what he'll do.
Wasn't he the one with the video that he was like, "Who's Shaggy?" That was a great video.
Well, who is Shaggy? I mean, he's not going to the Gwent Open. A little bit smack talk there. I mean, I'm not going either, so it's fine. I'm allowed to talk smack. I was going. Go on. It's okay.
Oh, cool. I was going to say I also think Colomon's one of my picks. I mean, when you look at the number of games and the MMR, it's very impressive. And I totally agree. The games he played at that castle, I was just like, I think we were all kind of sitting there just going, this is awesome. Like, this is what we want to see. I'm low key supporting. I like going for the underdog. I don't know he necessarily is an underdog, but I think Demorki has a really good shot. I'm a big fan, so I think I'm also going to give him my second place boost.
Yeah, and I'm also very curious how well Schmel will do. Schmel, early on, he's been playing this game for a super long time, and he actually came up with and was known for one of the most innovative strategies of the super early closed beta, which was like a dry pass Ocvis kind of deck. It was super unique, and of course, I'm always rooting for innovators when it comes to tournaments like this, because it's always very exciting seeing what they'll bring.
That is true, and Dutch Boy is another newer player to the scene. I don't think has he been in any other opens. I think him and Demorkis is the first time.
This is the first one. I think Demorkis went. I know the name. I don't know.
He plays for Aretuza, does he not?
Yeah, he's an Aretuza boy.
Which is ironic.
Which is funny because Aretuza is like, isn't it a school for girls?
Yes, it is.
He's the founder. He's the founder of Aretuza.
Oh, there you go. I mean, I'm hopeful for Colamon. I'm always sad that Mago's not going. I feel like I would love to see Mago compete at a LAN. He's just consistently up there in tournaments, in Gwent Opens. You see him just performing well in general across the board. So it's always a shame that he qualifies and just doesn't go. And I think he qualified and didn't go, and that let Freddie go to one at one point.
Yes,
Mago is the one who's like, "Hey there, number 9. I got your back."
Hey there, number 9.
That's him. He's just like, don't worry, guys, don't worry. You see, you're not quite as good as me, but that's okay.
Yeah, Mago is almost certainly the best, most unknown Gwent player because he actually can't go to events, but he has, from the very early days in the closed beta, performed extremely well and extremely consistently. And he has, a long record of playing kind of Hearthstone at a competitive level as well.
So other players, Adzakov,
Apero's mute again.
Oh, sorry. Am I back?
Sadness.
Yep.
Good.
Cool. I was just going to say, so we all agree that we're going for Mago in that case, since we've talked him up so much. We're going to go for the one who's not there, right?
My vote goes for the one that isn't going. Yeah, exactly.
No, I think Colamon will do.
That's
really
how you
well
win. Just don't participate.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'd give it to Colamon, but I'm also very, very excited to see my man Tailbot as well because he's he's quite the character.
I think Colamon just needed to learn the tournament environment a little bit better, and that was, I believe, his first. Wasn't that his first major tournament?
Yes, that was his first major tournament.
Yeah, he just tournament environment's a little bit different than
it's very
Pro
different.
Ladder.
And I mean, you can talk for days about like how different you actually have to play, because you have to strategize differently. You have to build a cohesive lineup, not just with powerful decks, but decks that actually are able to work together, sometimes targeting or something like that. But like at the end of the day, the most impactful thing is the pressure, right? And someone who's never played in a tournament before will often be making like just a couple of mistakes that will absolutely punish you. But yeah, no, he really impressed me with how he was able to do. Anyway, at this point, we should be able to open it up to viewer questions. So if any of you guys have any questions for any of us specifically, or us as a group, how we feel about anything at all, this is your opportunity to type at Topdeck1 in the chat. And let us know what your burning questions are.
Yeah, I guess while we wait for questions, we'll ask you guys, what is the most fun Gwent play you've had this week? We'll go with something like that.
Most fun Gwent play.
Oh God, I've had so many.
I had a great one today. So you guys can think I'll start. So I was playing Arena and I played Imlerith Sabbath, and this guy just wasn't dealing with it for like 4 or 5 cards, and then he just decided to stop playing. At which point he started discarding cards, and the first card he discarded was Mandrake. And I was like, at this point, I have absolutely no idea what is going on. The guy's like level 60 or something. Like he should 100% know better. And I was just like, why? Apero, did you ever play that made you smile? Oh, she's muted.
She's out. Yeah.
Oh, sad times.
Okay,
Ammers, do you ever play the Mage's Smile?
just today, I was just doing my dailies. I've been playing a lot of armor lately. I was running a Radovid Siri armor Nova deck up until about rank 19, and then I swapped to Anivia's list, which is pretty good, and made a few adjustments of my own. Point being, I was playing against Alchemy. It has a very good win rate against Alchemy because armor is awesome. And I played, anticipating Foul Ale, I played everything on the middle row, and I just put one Redanian Elite on the top and bottom rows, and then he was just forced to discard his Foul Ale. And I won.
Nice.
I can tell you about
give him any points.
a sweet misplay I had, which is that I've never played neither Armor nor Cursed Northern Realms before, aside from like very briefly, and so I thought, oh, I'm gonna be so good. I'm gonna set up round 1. I'm gonna play Vincent, and then I'm gonna Shani Vincent back in round 3 and have a double. And yeah, that didn't work so well. So that was my misplay of the week, if that counts.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you can't Shani Vincent. I found that out, but I found that out because I consumed a Vincent from someone's graveyard just in case they would res it, and chat's like, oh no, Shani can't do it. So I didn't find out by like making a huge misplay.
But you know who can res your Vincent? Caretaker.
Oh yeah, I feel and that's the thing. I actually checked, and there is nothing that can res Vincent on your side of the board. There is no card that exists that can do it.
That's great.
And yeah, but I feel like it's like a self-scorch. Like you have to find out like the hard way sometimes, and that was one of them.
Swim, do you have a play for us?
My favorite play this week was when I played Ockfist and made him big, and then played big bronze cards.
You made a big Ockfist.
Yeah, I made a really big Ockfist.
So they couldn't kill it, and then it triggered. Does it come back like huge in your hand? Like
oh yes, massive.
And then you can keep it. So then you keep it for a future round, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just
Are
checking.
you okay?
And then he forfeits the game and like goes on this rant about how it means that you don't. Right? It doesn't matter, man.
I have not played against any Swim deck deckers yet running that deck, so I haven't experienced it yet.
Yeah, I mean, last time I watched.
Will. You will. I'm still optimizing the list a little bit. I'm still tweaking one or two things. It's honestly, and I'm not just saying
this. It's time to stop.
It's my favorite list ever in Gwent.
No, in
Gwent's history.
End the madness now.
I mean, it'll be popular for a day. It's like Moonlight. Like I've seen people playing it for a day, they lose. Now Ockfist will be tomorrow's deck, but that's fine because I'm not playing Gwent tomorrow.
Just shaking your head like you have.
Yeah, we should
questions.
Questions.
Yeah.
Someone asked for Ammers to do an Elven Wood Dancer impression. I don't know if this is some kind of inside joke.
Oh God, I forget what they even say.
Too fast for you, Dora.
Elven War Dancer? No, I think they probably mean, if it's someone from my group, they probably mean the the ones that come out in a set of 3. Dance of death. Ha!
Strike Commando.
Ha! That's probably what they mean. Too fast for you, Dwan.
No, my favorite play wasn't that I played Imlerith Sabbath. My favorite play is I played Imlerith Sabbath, and the person with Mandrake in their hand decided to just let it exist. The stupidity of others makes me happy. Okay, like what can I say?
Same.
That explains why you're always so happy.
That's how
Lurtz
you
is
win
alive.
You
can
just
tell.
let them play themselves.
Yeah, Lurtz is alive. He survived the snowstorm. He's all good. He sent me a Snapchat of him singing in the snow, so I think he's fine.
You know, we haven't gotten any snow here, and everyone's really sad at my workplace. It's
You can have some of ours.
Here's a question.
all of them.
What do we think of Imlerith Sabbath? Do we think the card is too good? Because it's a little bit feast or famine right now, right? And that's always been a tricky design in Gwent before. I'm personally...
old engine.
Yes.
I think if Mandrake weren't good for any other purpose, then I would say yes, because then the fact that you kind of have to run something similar to Mandrake to deal with a buffed Imlerith would be a real problem. But because Mandrake itself is such a versatile card generally, I don't feel like it's a huge issue, personally.
I gotta say, I don't think it's an issue. I think it's
I
very
agree.
feast or famine, but at the same time, its power level is kind of right around the point as, you know, it's balanced. And when you have too much of a system of removing like cards that could be kind of problematic, you end up with a bit more of a bland game. I don't think he causes real problems.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing against Consume, like or hand buff Nilfgaard. Either you have the answer or you don't, and the answer to Imlerith is removal, exiling, or just play a giant body that just hits it back. That's
exactly
that's
the thing about Imlerith Sabbath. How the card works, it's incredibly similar to old weather we've seen in the past. Like when Ragnarok and Drought dealt 3 damage, you guys remember that? How it worked was, you know, you play it out, it trades decently against even a clear, but the difference is Sabbath gets countered by removal, which is something that every deck has as opposed to clears. So it's a much healthier implementation of the same idea.
Uphill both ways in the Ragnarok.
I don't mind him. Like, it is kind of frustrating when you don't have an answer and then he's just sitting there with like 20 points and you're like, I can't play anything. And then you pass and then they resurrect him and then you're like, I can't play anything. It's like...
But I mean, yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, it's the same with Consume. If they like Mandrake your neck, you don't have Neckers, you're like, I can't play anything. Like, there's plenty of situations where it happens.
I guess I'll die.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And if as an Imlerith player, if you play it at just the wrong time, like a lot of the time, it's just not going to find value. So it's risky. Risk versus reward.
Nuanced. It's nuanced.
Yeah. I mean, if you hate it that much, play Alchemy. Problem solved.
But what if you hate
answer
Alchemy?
to anything.
Well, let's stop playing Gwent.
Time to take a break.
Okay, here we go. Next question. Any bets on the release date of the first single player campaign?
I think we might find out. I feel like we're going to find out a more, because this is one thing we didn't touch on about the AMA from Berza, is that he also said we're going to be giving out a more solid timeline soon for what we're planning and when things are going to happen and what our direction is. And that to me was the most exciting thing he said, because I'm like, okay, I think that's what a lot of us want, right? We just want to know kind of what's happening, what's going on, where are we going with this? So I hope that they'll do some sort of reveal at the Open this weekend and we'll find something out then.
I don't think they'll reveal until Masters. And when they do, it's going to be about a month and a half after Masters, maybe, because at that point it'll have been 4+ months since we got a big content drop.
It's true.
Do you remember when I said Swim has a terrible poker face?
What?
He's like, what? I wasn't even listening.
What? I didn't do anything.
What's over here?
I said you have a terrible poker face. You're like, you sit there and you're like, like while everyone else is talking. Like,
I'm just gonna, yep.
yeah. You have a wee
Come
sit,
on, guys! Don't bully, please.
Like, I feel like you'd be awful at LAN if this is how you try and bluff.
I am awful at LAN. I have a 0% win rate.
I mean, you played like 7 games though.
Well, I have a 0% win rate for the matches. I have
mean,
a
how does the
40%
draw
win
work
rate
out?
for the games.
You don't have to worry about
That's a good
your
question.
poker face if you sit so far back in your chair that no one can see you.
Or you just like
Like
slowly
Red Dream.
sidle. You just slowly sidle out of view. You just go, oh, got something to do. Hi.
It's why he sips so much because then he can cover his mouth so it's not so obvious that he's like trying to bluff. He's just like.
This is
cough.
fine.
He doesn't actually have a cough. This is again an excuse. It's all part of the swim bluffing strategy.
It's all a facade, man.
Mm-hmm. I mean, hopefully it comes out May. I'm gonna say May.
Why don't we just say? Why don't we
can't
just
wait
say
too
months?
long.
Why don't we just say months and then watch Swim's reactions? August.
January, February, March, April.
June.
Oh, I saw some movement.
It's
So
the
his
eyebrows.
eyebrows went up.
Guys,
Hook him up to a polygraph.
we can't. No, we can't do this, guys.
Who is currently the best competitive
It's not.
player?
It's not fair.
What was that? What was that?
Who is currently the best competitive player? This is one of our questions.
Right now, for me, it is between Kolomoan and Mago. That being said, Mago can't go to events, so he kind of doesn't really count.
Don't call him on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other opinions?
I don't have a strong opinion. I don't follow the higher levels of the game as much as I should. I'm mostly aware of the players from the last Masters. I did enjoy Koloman's performance there, and I hope he does well. And also, I've heard Adzikov is pretty good as well. I've seen him a bit.
Yeah. I have to say, like, yeah, Coleman's also my choice. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just, something about the way he thinks, that kind of, the way he plays, that kind of my brain just understands it. And so I kind of go, yeah, like, that's awesome. That's where I think a lot of players would like to go. And it just seems to be very clear and very thought out. And I don't know. I just like it. Something about it works for me.
Okay, I am spying a fantastic question in chat. Your thoughts about dumb bananas? Can you really play around them like Berza said? So this is referencing one of the questions in the AMA was, is War Dancer an issue? Is Dun Banner like Cavalry an issue? Berza answered, they're looking into War Dancer, but Dun Banners can be played around.
Yeah,
and I think this is a very similar answer to the one he gave with Silver Spies. Basically, they indicated they were looking at solving kind of the coin flip, and then kind of after they had resolved that, they would kind of go back and see if Silver Spies still continue to be an issue. I think they're giving Dun Banners effectively the same approach, and I actually agree with it entirely.
I do too.
When a coin flip solution gets implemented, Dun Banners, honestly, I mean, depending on the solution in question, really might not be that good, because they're really just there to punish the coin flip in this case.
Yeah.
They don't even punish as much as just kind of keep you in range of a tempo play. I don't really think that's punishment. That's just like rewarding deck building.
Yeah, I mean, I think they take. I mean, some people would disagree with me, but I think they take skill to get out on the side of the Henselt player, and they take skill to avoid on the side of the opposing player. And I think anyone who's played Henselt for more than like 5 minutes will agree that like getting those Dun Banners out, especially against an experienced player, especially on Pro Ladder. I'm playing Pro Ladder this season for the first time, and I have to say, like, especially there.
Oh, you're top 200 right now.
Ammers is just quite quiet, by the way. Yeah, you went a bit
Apero
quiet.
is good at this game.
Apero's muted and Ammers is quiet.
Oh god, it's a disaster.
Oh no.
What
I
they're
think,
gonna do.
I guess Dun Banner got stronger just because bronze creep, right? Like they didn't used to be
Yes,
so good
exactly.
when bronzes were like 8s, but
Yep,
now you're playing
That's exactly right.
regular 12. So then it's like if they play Thaler, a lot of the time you just don't have a play small enough. That
Exactly.
seems to be the issue with Dun Banners. Is sometimes it's like, oh no, all of my cards are too strong, and it's just like, well. But then it's because they're stronger, then Dun Banners also become weaker because they're only a 12-point play. So when you could get 12 points pulled out of your deck when people are playing 8s, that's much more powerful getting 12 points out of your deck when people are playing 13s. So it kind of balances itself.
It doesn't balance itself quite enough, though, because with a card like Dun Banner, it's kind of all about whether you get them out or not. Even if they offer you kind of less points, getting free points in Gwent and free thinning is a huge win condition, especially in round 1 when tempo really matters that much.
Yeah,
so
and
the power
especially
creep definitely helped them.
Especially in a deck like Henselt, which already has pretty good thinning power, that like you can then on top of that get this nice warmth through. Like if you can get a sweet Henselt in round 1 and get the Dun Bananas out in round 1, then you can put yourself in a pretty nice position for rounds 2 and 3.
I think they some interesting archetypes in NR. Like, I think it will become important when Cursed sees more play. For instance,
could be.
Revenants. is very low tempo play, and it'll keep you in the game and a chance to catch up while you're setting up your rep.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. If you ever played Hensel, you'll know that when someone passes on you, when you haven't gotten done banner out yet, you're like,
Exactly. Yep.
and then you draw 2 of them, and then you just want to die.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think it really comes down to there's a bit of an idea, which is that in game design, if possible, it's always better to rebalance something without effectively deleting a unique idea from the game. That's the same idea why I don't really like Sabbath being deleted. And when you kind of approach the game with the mentality too much of just kind of removing every effect that is too tricky for you to balance, then you get a very bland experience with your game. At the end of the day,
then you get dwarves.
Exactly. That's honestly exactly right. That's a great example. And I think that if it's possible to fix it in a way that doesn't just delete that kind of effect from the game, that would be much preferred. And I think a coin flip solution is that answer.
Which hopefully we'll see coming up, right? In a PTR.
Hopefully. I mean, CDPR has indicated, most importantly, that they are actually looking into the coin flip. This is kind of news for us because before they indicated that they, had other priorities, which is something that...
Coin flip is fine.
Yeah.
Coin flip is fine.
Exactly.
Coin flip's not a problem. It's all in your head.
And on that note, let's end the show.
All right.
I do really want to see a change.
Ammers, you're still really quiet, by the way.
Why?
There, you're good.
Oh, there you go.
I'll just put the mic in my mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'd really like to see a change to War Dancer in that it should be a face down, like 3-point card, or just come out at the end of the turn.
Because there's no setup that's required for War Dancer. Like with Morkvark and Olgierd, you have to play Bran, which is kind of a low tempo play with those 2 things. And you can still deal with it by locking one or eating the other one out of the graveyard with like Osril or Blackblood. And the Barbagazi you can also play against, and it takes a turn to set them up. With War Dancer, pass, easy, and you don't have to play a card, you just mulligan. And
I would absolutely love to see it come out as a face down that flips after 1 turn, like Sappers.
I can't talk about it, or it'll just make me angry.
Well, I guess it would. But that'd have to be 2 turns. But you know what I mean. Basically, blocking out the dry pass as an option.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Anyway, guys, that will do for this week's Topdecked. So before we wrap it up, Apero and Ammers, have you got any shout outs? Anyone you want to promote? Any channels that you want to, mention? Your YouTubes, Twitches, Twitters, all that sort of thing. We'll start with Apero.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a...
Oh, and she's gone. Well, let's not start with Apero.
We lost her. Yep. We gotta start with someone else.
I do have a Twitch. I haven't streamed in quite a long time. I streamed the most about 1.5 years ago when I claimed a legend in Hearthstone, and most of my viewers are from that. I might do a bit of streaming this week just because of the stuff that's been going on. So feel free to stop by. I can't guarantee anything, but we'll see. And Apero, we didn't talk about it much, but Apero took first place with her team on the Trail of the Grasses, and she's awesome, and she's top 200 on the pro ladder, and you should 100% visit her stream because she's amazing.
Thank you. I'm top 250 now because I didn't play for 2 days because I was sick. But yeah, yeah. Thank you. And so to give my little spiel, I stream on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays at 1 p.m. CET, and my Twitch channel is Apero with 2 underscores.
Yeah, woman is going places. You're trying to qualify for the Challenger qualifier, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to qualify for qualifiers. Yeah, basically.
I stream. I would like to shout myself out. I stream on twitch.tv/swimstream, and I stream every day between the hours of 5 p.m. CET and 11 p.m. CET.
Are you sure you stream? I've never heard
of you.
You sure?
Yeah.
Who are you again?
Sounds like a lie.
Check me out. Thanks.
Sounds good. And
you had asked. Sorry.
I was going to do a shout out.
Oh,
Yeah, you guys can go first if you have more people to mention, because otherwise I'll wrap up the show.
I'll do a really quick one, which is that because Emma's mentioned the Trial of the Grasses, I'd like to shout out my other team members on that. Crozier was my coach, and Cyber Pirate Ninja was my other team member. And yeah, we took first place. There was some difficulties with programming, and so it didn't end up being cast, which was a real shame. But we did take out first place, and I just want to really thank Crozier in particular for being such an amazing coach during that process.
Yeah, and I did mention some shout outs earlier, like my mod team, the mentors, everybody who's involved in getting the lodge up and off the ground. Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody who met at the Wild Hunt. There was a lot of support there, and thank you so much for having me and Apero here today. So it's really, really awesome.
And thanks, Ammers, for inviting me to come with you.
Thanks for coming on.
We're just going to all thank each other. It's a big
Hey, thanks to everybody. So my shout out. Shout outs to JJ Passack, enjoy staring at your wall. And beyond that, thank you guys so much for watching. That's a joke that you two won't get because you didn't see chat. He may have been banned.
He's not allowed in the lodge, by the way.
Oh no. I definitely did not see that one coming. But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a fantastic evening, everybody. And hopefully we will catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.